Well, the spring 2020 women's show season is wrapping up in Paris with designers unveiling their collections for next year. But politics is never far away from the runway. In New York, another Trump-linked controversy threatened to derail Fashion Week.
And meanwhile, it seems that climate activist Greta Thunberg has become an unlikely fashion muse. To discuss this and other industry news, we're joined by fashion journalist Paddy Huntington. Paddy, thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Talk to us first about Trump and...
As if anyone needed to talk any more about
Trump.
Trump.
We exclude him from just one segment?
I know, sorry.
Always do one segment without talking.
We talked a lot about the fashion impact at the beginning, of his presidency. But look, it's come up again this month because Fashion Month, which is the New York Fashion Week, followed by London, Milan and Paris. It always kicks off in New York. And before Fashion Month had even begun, designers were pulling out of this fabulous new venue at Hudson Yards, which is a $25 billion development considered to be the largest retail development in US history. Because in late August, the developer, Stephen Ross, held a fundraiser for Trump's 2020 election campaign. So a number of designers that were said to have been having their shows there pulled out. And even the Council of Fashion Designers of America, which is the peak American fashion body, Ross's wife, Cara Ross, sits on the board, and people were saying, well, I'm going to withdraw my membership unless... So, look, she wound up being rotated off the board under new chairman Tom Ford, who said it was just standard rotation. But there weren't any shows at Hudson Yards, and that was mooted at one point as being a new home for New York Fashion Week, much like we have Carriage Works here in Sydney as the central hub for Sydney Fashion Week. But I think that that's probably off the table at the moment.
Now, the anti-Trump sentiment in the fashion world also extends to Donald Trump's wife, Melania, as well.
Absolutely, yes, of course. And as we've discussed on a number of occasions on Weekend Breakfast, American designers in particular have been very vocal about not wanting to be associated with her, not wanting to dress her. Of course, her stylist just goes and buys stuff at retail. I mean, there are exceptions. Ralph Lauren made, the blue ensemble that she wore for the inauguration, and certainly other brands like Dolce & Gabbana in Italy is very vocal about supporting her. But yes, one with Scott Morrison's trip to the US, Melania, made a point, as many first ladies do, of honouring Australia by wearing an Australian brand called Scanlan Theodore. And it's about the third time she's worn that brand, but there's not a peep out of Scanlan Theodore, which of course is Australian.
And usually fashion designers would go on social media and post the pictures, and it
usually
would be a good opportunity.
Usually, and fashion writers too. I mean, we heard about Princess Beatrice wearing Australian brand Zimmermann for the announcement of her engagement, but apart from the mainstream press, I really didn't see much about the fact that Melania wore Scanlan Theodore. I have to point out something very amusing, and that is that Scanlan Theodore has just opened its third US location. Where else but Hudson Yards? So,
right.
I mean, if you're against, you sign a lease for a number of years, good luck getting out of that one. But yeah, I mean, obviously it was a great opportunity for Australian designers. Jenny Morrison wore Colours and Patty twice in a black jumpsuit to arrive at Andrews Air Force Base, which I should point out is quite an edgy choice for a political figure's partner. And
because it was a jumpsuit,
a sleeveless black jumpsuit. Now it's a very big fashion trend. We're going to talk about that on the runways this month. But it's not something you often see. In fact, you don't see anywhere else other than on Melania Trump, who has made it really part of her go-to wardrobe since the beginning. Jenny Morrison also wore Colours and Patty to the state dinner, and another Australian brand called Ginger and Smart to the official welcome. But there was something written about that in the press, but not that much, because it's kind of a blackballing of Donald Trump, who, as we know, many people don't approve of.
Just before we get to the runways, Greta Thunberg, what does she have to do with fashion?
Well, interesting. I mean, she's become probably, at the moment, arguably the most high-profile, champion of, climate action, the need for climate action. And, of course, her very powerful emotional speech at the UN coincided with Paris Fashion Week. And interestingly, whether it's coincidental, no one has actually gone on the record. A number of brands actually had braids, their models styled with braids on the runway. So we had Christian Dior in Paris, Antonio Maras in Milan. And, I mean, is it a coincidence? I'm not quite sure. It's interesting. I mean, she is the face of sort of the environmental movement at the moment, a 16-year-old child.
Well, it comes at the same time as fashion brands are trying to push their environmental credentials.
Oh, absolutely. And look, we always talk about this in the lead up to Fashion Revolution Week, which is, of course, on the anniversary of the Rana Plaza tragedy. But this has become a massive conversation in fashion, I mean, as it should, since fashion is such a huge polluter. And look, the sustainability sort of efforts, every week there's some new announcement by a brand or a company. I mean, in August we had the Fashion Pact, which is a coalition of 32 brands, with their commitment to sort of, reducing greenhouse emissions and phasing out single-use plastics that were presented at the G7 summit. Last night we had the Circular Fashion Summit in Paris. We've had a number of initiatives. And look at London Fashion Week, an organisation or a lobby group called Extinction Rebellion staged a number of protests. Now, they don't just want the fashion industry to clean up its act. They want London Fashion Week to end. And if you want to talk about the blowback against poor Greta Thunberg and, the criticisms by Trump and others that she's been very negative, if that is the end game, to kill fashion, Buy Nothing Day, what purpose does that serve? Since fashion, is the second biggest employer of women in the developing world. Of course, we want them to earn a living wage. Employs something like 72 million people globally, and is a very important industry in developing countries.
And I suspect that people will continue to wear clothes.
Well, they will continue to wear clothes.
Continue to be clothed.
So.
Will they be new clothes? Will they be recycled clothes or upcycled clothes?
Right.
So,
just very quickly, I want to know what we need to be looking out for in terms of the spring 2020 women's fashion show season having just wrapped up in Paris. What were you looking at?
OK, well, look, there's always a lot of trends. Some of the biggest trends were jumpsuits. Let's call it the Melania effect. I mean, they were popular before Melania, appeared as a first lady, but we have seen a lot of those, especially large pink loose jumpsuits. Look, obviously pilots. Engineers, lots of people wear jumpsuits and it's become a sort of a runaway fashion trend. Short shorts, I know shorts are usually short, but these are really short shorts. So,
I hate those.
Hot pants are absolutely tiny. And often short suits, so the shorts worn with jackets. And at the other end of the spectrum to the short shorts, we've got this massive volume. So, oversized suits, I'm calling it the big suit. We've seen that on a number of runways. Now, this is a suit that looks like it's several sizes too large, and you're actually wearing something. See what I mean? I mean, the jacket is actually swimming. And it's interesting. I mean, most people would think that looks very ill-fitting, but in this oversized sort of extra volume is something that's been bubbling in fashion for a while. So the big suit, and also the big dress. Volume in giant, sort of gargantuan dresses.
Fantastic. Thanks for telling us all of that and what to look out for. Paddy,
I'll
great
be wearing
to see
that
you,
one.
as
I'm going to
usual.
wear that one next week.
It would suit you, Josh. You'd look great in that.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Paddy.
My pleasure.